Very good. I brought in reinforcements today, which is nice. So I have been told only to start on time, so I'm a couple of minutes early. But just one little announcement, as I have the time, is for the interviews today, please keep it to 10 minutes, because we have a full schedule today, and try and keep it to talks about meditation or questions about meditation. If it's about your family, please know I've never been married. If it's about your children, I have never had kids. If it's about your business, I don't have any business. So if you can, try and just keep it to the meditation questions. And that's much more helpful. And also, because there's a lot of people putting their names down for the interviews, can we only have it at most like once every second day? Not every day. Otherwise, I'll just get worn out. I know that sometimes people think that if you're a monk, and many of you who come from a long distance, try and squeeze as much out of me as you possibly can. And I would always try to do my best, but there is obviously a limit. So if you want to have good talks in the evening, or question and answers, good talks in the morning, please look after me. Okay. And it's also good for those people, you put your names down at a certain time, and if you have to sit there waiting for 10 or 20 minutes because we go over time, it's not really fair on the people who are coming afterwards. Good. That's the interviews. Another 45 seconds to go. Another 30 seconds to go. Exciting, isn't it?
That's already wrong.
Not on this one.
According to me, you can start.
No, I've got to follow. This one is my guide. It's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going, yeah. Kick-off time. Excellent, so welcome to Saturday morning's talk on this 9-day retreat. I'm going to begin by talking something about the walking meditation. I promised that yesterday, and then go from there to the breath meditation. But first of all, the walking meditation. I hope many of you have tried the walking meditation. Go into either of these halls here, on the carpet. The reason I put the carpet there is because when we first had these halls open, there's always someone who decides to walk diagonally, because that's a bit longer. So please don't do that. Just walk, just from the beginning to the end. It's long enough if you walk, comfortably and quite slowly. You can also do the walking meditation in other places around this facility. In some, I shouldn't really tell you this, but just like in front of here, hardly anyone uses this piece of veranda in front of the hall. You can use that one just to do walking meditation. Or any other place you can find a bit of quietness, a bit of solitude, because the last thing you want when you're doing walking meditation is to be disturbed. Of course, we do have other people who do walking meditation here, which is I think they call them the Portuguese millipedes, which is, there's lots of them. So if you did want to, take the broom and the pan and just sweep them up gently, so you don't harm them, but you just give them another place to go, that might be nice. And then you can have a nice clear path there to do your walking meditation. And so those are the places to do walking meditation. Oh, sorry. That's right. Those are the places to do the walking meditation. And the length is not that important. I know in the forest tradition where I grew up that there's plenty of space. So we used to have walking meditation paths about 25 steps long. And that was about, quite nice. You can really get into it and then you turn around and walk back again. But here, because of the constraint of space, they're not that long. But nevertheless, they are long enough to do some nice meditation. You start at the beginning of the path. It's not a time for thinking about what question you're going to ask afterwards on the piece of the paper. This is just trying to keep the mind peaceful and quiet. To be able to do that peaceful and quietness, that mindfulness, we try to put our mindfulness on the movement of the legs, not on your breath, because if you are breathing, then you're not really noticing where you're going. You can be half on the breath, but what are you stepping on? Are you going a little bit too far on the walking meditation path? So we try and make sure we keep our attention on our feet and our lower legs. A good example, right now, how are your toes? Wiggle them. Don't look at them, just wiggle them. Can you experience them? That's what we do when we're doing the walking meditation. We experience the sensation of the path on our feet. That's why, if at all possible, if you want to take off your socks while you're doing the walking meditation, it's much more enjoyable. You can feel more the sensation of the feet on the yoga mats. If you haven't washed your feet, then please keep your socks on. We don't want to asphyxiate the other people. But no, most people are okay there. So if you take the socks off and do the walking meditation, you can put the socks on afterwards if you wish. But nevertheless, in the walking meditation, be able to feel the sensations on the feet. And also be able to, if you can right now, can you lift one of your legs? How did you do that? All the sensations, not just the choice, the will, but all the sensations just to lift your leg. And this is what you're doing when you're doing the walking meditation. You can start to experience the many different movements you have to do just to lift a leg, to start the one step. And as you're lifting that leg, does it go straight up? How does it move? And of course, I've been doing this meditation for a long time, so when I lift my leg to do walking meditation, it goes back a bit. And then when I move it forward, it doesn't go straight. It just goes in an arc. And then I put it down. And if you're going to do walking meditation, I'm going to ask you, which part of your foot leaves the ground first? Which leaves it last? What's the last part of the sole of your feet to lose contact with the floor when you're walking? And when you step down, what part of the foot touches the ground first? Simple bits of mindfulness. And that makes it interesting. You're being aware of something you've been doing for so many years, but now you're actually paying attention to it and feeling it. You're not making these steps unnatural. You are just walking and you are being observant of it, mindful of it. And it's because after a while there's so much to see in this walking of the movement of the legs. After a while it gets fascinating and it becomes slow naturally. I say slow naturally because you don't want to go slow, you don't want to go fast. I say this is not a competition. Some people have in their interviews told me that when they're doing walking meditation in those rooms and there's other people with them, Sometimes it's like a competition. Who can walk slowest? You don't look at other people, you just be observant, of what's comfortable for you. And then when one step is finished, you can notice the attention go to the other leg. And you prepare, to transfer the weight of your body from one foot or one leg to the other leg, and that frees the second leg to also start moving up. What part of the other leg leaves the ground first? What leaves it last? Is it the same? Left leg and right leg? How does it move upwards? How does it move forward? How does it move down? So these are things which you start observing. At first you think, how boring is this? I can walk. What do I have to pay so much attention to it for? When you start focusing attention on simple things like that, and the mindfulness starts to increase, you know what happens? It gets delightful. Delightful walking. This is one of those phenomena which I emphasize, and mostly I emphasize this because I feel that other meditation teachers don't really emphasize this enough. The joy, the happiness, the interest. And once you start doing this, then you don't worry about how fast you're walking. You just, when you get to the end of the path, you realize I'm at the end of the path now, so you turn around. How do you turn around? Which foot moves first, and how does it move? Does it move up and then goes at an angle? So you become mindful of how you turn around. And then once you've turned around facing the way you came, then you walk slowly back again. So you keep as much awareness and mindfulness as you can. The restrained part of this is making sure you're in this moment. Because the wonderful thing about walking meditation, you end up where you started. You're not getting anywhere. You start at the beginning of the path, you go to the end, come back again. That's where you began. So you're not getting anywhere. It takes away some of this idea of attaining or getting rid of troubles and making more sort of enlightenment factors or whatever. Instead, we're just being in this moment. And if you can, be as silent as possible. You're experiencing, you're feeling, your legs. You're not giving a commentary about them. You don't say, left leg moving, left leg going up, left leg going up, left leg finishing going up, left leg going forward. That makes your brain tired. Why do you need a commentary? These are your legs. You're experiencing it. You should just know it. You don't need someone to tell you. Especially your brain doesn't need to tell you. You can feel it. And so you're getting the message here that for the deep meditations, we want to experience things rather than give words and comments and descriptions. I've often said descriptions are just never as close to reality as the experience itself. Sometimes we do have cartoons in the dining room. From some people are just very smart and very perceptive. And one of those cartoonists is this gentleman in Melbourne called Loonig. I think many of you may have seen his cartoons. They're very perceptive. And I remember one of his cartoons, just one page, or one sort of image. On the left-hand side of that cartoon was a family watching the television. And on the television there was a beautiful sunset. On the right-hand side of that cartoon, there was an open window. No one was looking through it, where the sunset was actually happening. And that's all it did. It showed, why is it that many people would prefer to see a beautiful sunset on a TV where someone's talking about it, rather than just go and see it for yourself. And seeing it for yourself is much closer to reality and much more enjoyable. But anyhow, that's what we're doing When we're walking, we're not saying anything to ourselves, we're experiencing it. And the lovely thing about walking meditation, there's enough going on just in one step that you are totally satisfied. There's enough going on. You don't need to be distracted. And after a while, you just really get to focus. Not through force. The feelings in your legs walking draw you in. It's almost irresistible. And so this is where then we can start walking. We just get in these beautiful states. It's not full samadhi. So know that somebody once did ask, can you get into jhanas through walking meditation? And I always said no. It's just a little bit too active, too disturbing. But apparently I was wrong. Because one of the monks who lived in Thailand told me about this monk who used to get into jhana while walking meditation, and he used to have lots of bruises and cuts on his face as proof. Because if you get into jhanas, you lose perception of your body. You can't see, you can't hear, you can't feel the body, you can't smell, you can't taste. That's why he kept on. It's dangerous. And we don't have enough insurance in the BSWA to cover you for injury if you get into jhana while you're walking meditation, so please don't do that. But what you can do is to get into very, very close, beautiful, deep meditation. Not really jhanas yet, but it's still good. And the story I tell, because please excuse me for telling personal stories, but those are ones which I can trust the most. You experienced it, so you know exactly what was happening. And I should also mention that when you do get some really quiet meditations, we call them deep meditations, you can't forget them. This experience happened when I first ordained as a monk in Thailand. That's almost 48 years ago now. And I recall, because, again, I was a young monk, novice monk, I had lots of free time. So after doing a little ceremony, some chanting in the main hall in Bangkok, Wat Saket, I had an hour to do some walking meditation in the main hall. No one else was using it in the morning. And there was one really strange thing. In those big halls in Bangkok, every one of those halls would always have a grandfather clock. So every 15 minutes, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. It would chime the quarter hours. If you're sitting meditation, that could be very disturbing, but walking meditation, at least it gave you an idea of how long you've been walking and the type of speed you're doing. So in that hall, which maybe about the length of this hall over here, it would always take me, not forcing it, just naturally, half an hour to walk from one end to the other end, turn around another half an hour to go back. You weren't trying to walk slowly, it was just, when you get into it, there's just too much going on to rush it. So I remember this one occasion, I was on the return journey, it took me half an hour, and then you're getting very peaceful and very delightful, just watching the feelings in your legs as you're lifting up. Wow. And just coming back slightly to balance your body and then moving forward. And I was been doing this maybe about 40 minutes, I was on the return leg, and then I heard this sound. It was almost like a supernatural sound, because it was like 100 miles away. And it was saying my name. Brahma Wang So. Brahma Wang So. It was fascinating. It took my attention away from the feelings in my legs to this weird sound I was kind of hearing. What on earth was this? It was quite beautiful, and very soft. You can only just hear it. So. And then as I focused my attention on the sound, I realized it was coming from the mouth of a Thai monk who was shouting in my ear hole about that far away. And then I recalled I was supposed to go to a meal offering in somebody's house. And I hadn't turned up because I was doing my walking meditation. I lost all track of time. And the abbot sent this young monk to come and get me. At least he knew, what meditation was. So he didn't put me in an ambulance and send me to some hospital. He just kept on, Brahma Wang So. Right next to my ear. And then I realized, I had to sort of come out of my meditation. But honestly, it took me about a minute to move my head. Have you ever moved your head? Notice all the muscles which have to be moved just to turn your head around. It was fascinating. Little by little, I turned my head. This is fast. Yes? You've got to go to a Jhana. Oh. You're so cool, you couldn't act fast, but I really went up the gears, as they say, turning up the gears of your car to go faster, and eventually you sort of managed to get to the ceremony in time. But I always remember that, just how you were in this beautiful little world of yourself. You weren't in jhanas, but you were very peaceful, everything was going slow, and you were very alert to your body, but the sense of sound had basically almost turned off. And that's what it's like in walking meditation. You get in your whole little private world when you're walking back and forward. And when you're finished, you feel that, I don't want to take it deeper. Then you slowly walk to your seat. It may take half an hour from that room to here. Doesn't matter. And then you sit down and do some nice quiet meditation. It's almost like you're halfway there. You're so aware, so still, hardly anything's going on in your mind. You sit down. And basically, if I did that, just as soon as you sit down, the breath is so clear, slow, and delightful. It's very easy to go from there into the deepest of meditations. Now, of course, it's very difficult to be able to sit down and meditate for hour after hour after hour. Your body does get a bit sore sometimes. One of the other things, I hope will happen, either this retreat or some other retreat, sometimes you start meditating, you do get into a deep meditation. And that's weird. Because if after 1 hour you haven't moved, many of you, when you get up afterwards, you feel stiff. Maybe an ache here or a pain there or something. But when you get into a deep meditation, after 3, 4, 5 hours, no pain at all anywhere. It's weird. You haven't moved. You've been so very still. But somehow or other, I don't understand how this happens, but I just know it does. When you come out afterwards, the whole body is totally at ease. Nothing no tension there at all. No aches, no pains. It's weird, but it's true. But anyhow, when you don't get into those deep meditations, there are aches and pains, which is one of the reasons why, if you want to really build up the momentum of silence, the momentum of stillness, then you do walking meditation, then come and sit down, however long the body or mind wants to, and then go do some more sitting meditation, come back to do walking meditation, sitting, just alternate between those two. And one of the monks who I respect, who I saw over in Thailand, we got a photo of him in our Dana Sala, dining room up in Bodhinyana. And this monk, that he was a farmer in the northeast. He was doing some business in a town of Sakonnakhon when Ajahn Brahm's funeral was taking place. So just out of interest, he just walked in and heard one of the monks there just giving a sermon. If you want to get into some enlightenment, then just walk a lot, sit a lot. That's all. That's all he heard. He was a simple villager. And of course, his career was fine. He was, his children had grown up. He had a wife, and she was happy to let him ordain as a monk. So he ordained as a monk. He didn't have any other teacher or teachings other than this: walk a lot, sit a lot. And that's what this monk did. When he got up in the morning, he went on alms round, got his one meal of the day, cleaned up, and then started walking on his walking path. When he got tired, he sat right there, right on his walking path. And when he came out of his sitting meditation, he got up and carried on walking straight away, and did that all day. I think sometimes, even late at night, he would actually sleep on his walking path when he got tired. He was a simple villager, and simple villagers were used to, ascetic conditions. They didn't need blankets or mattresses. And so that's how he practiced as a monk. And when I went to see him, he was obviously a very, very strong and powerful monk. I didn't know him very well, but some of the other monks said he was fully enlightened. And I remember just once, getting some evidence that maybe he was. And that was when Ajahn Jhana, if you remember Ajahn Jhana Dhamma, we were talking with this monk, and Ajahn, they said, "Where do you come from?" So we come from Australia. Australia, where's Australia? Now this is a forest monk. They've only got 4 years of education in Thai schools in the northeast. What do you mean Australia? Where's that? Is that somewhere close to Bangkok? Their knowledge of geography is hopeless. They said, no, it's much further south than Bangkok. Just keep going south and you get to Australia. They said, oh, well, what's after Australia? Antarctica. Antarctica, what's that? There's lots of snow and ice there. And that really kind of fascinated that monk. Snow, a land of snow and a land of just ice? That must be impossible. Said, no, it's there. So anyway, after that discussion, which we thought was just not really productive, finished, the next morning, we saw him and he said, "Oh, you're right." "What do you mean we're right?" "You go down south, it's really cold down there. There's lots of white ice and mountains of snow." And he was such a simple monk. You actually believed him. That night, he just wanted to check out, so he went there. But anyhow, that's just an interesting anecdote. But the way he had his deep meditations was just learning, just walk a lot, sit a lot, do hardly anything else. So the walking meditations can be very powerful and can be very beautiful. But please don't use the walking meditations for contemplating. That's what many people do, and that's a mistake. They're walking backwards and forward and say, "Oh, like Four Noble Truths." Or they start thinking about dependent origination or something. Now it's quite an important point which I'm bringing up here now. Because there was one of these suttas. Actually, no. I always forget the reference. I think it's in the 3s or the 9s of the Anguttara Nikaya. And they say the obstacles to getting enlightened. And they have all these stupid thoughts, like thoughts about business, thoughts about family, thoughts about food or whatever. And you can accept those as obstacles. But then they said the lingering obstacles, the final obstacles you have to get through to get into the samadhi which will bring you enlightenment. And that's The word is Dhammavitaka, thinking about Dhamma. That's an obstacle. And when I first mentioned that, I knew some of the monks at the end of the line, they said, this is what we're supposed to do, to think about Dhamma. I said, at the right time, not now. And of course you explain it, because I've experienced this as well, that sometimes your mind is so peaceful, you can give yourself the most brilliant Dhamma discourse. You only wish there's a few people in front of you to give it to. And it's so easy and so clear and so deep and so powerful. Have you had those experiences when you're peaceful and Dhamma is just obvious? So you think. That is not the Dhamma. That's the last ploy of this fellow Mara to stop you becoming enlightened. In other words, the mind is not fully given up its 5 hindrances yet. They're still active. So what we're supposed to do is to get so still and peaceful that the jhanas appear. And then when you come out afterwards, the 5 hindrances, totally gone for a long period of time. Then that Dhamma, you don't even need to think about it, it just appears. That is the Dhamma which is the most valuable, which will create the experiences of enlightenment. That was such a powerful teaching, and I wish we could mention it more, because many people sometimes think they're enlightened. It all makes sense, it all comes together, but they're not. Keep being quiet and still. Don't contemplate on the walking meditation path. Just see how still your mind can become. And if it really gets still, come and sit down and get into a deep meditation. And afterwards your mind is just so strong. And you realize the power of those teachings by the Buddha. So anyway, that's the walking meditation. And it also means that sometimes that when you've finished the meditation in here or after the talk, instead of getting up and just charging out, sometimes you can get up and just slowly walk out, noticing all the movements in your feet. As you walk from here to the toilet, you'll probably be one of the last in the toilets, doesn't matter. The other people go first. And that also means, that you are aware all the time and calm all the time. And that does bring up what I keep saying, the strong mindfulness. It does happen. And sometimes, you see, I remember just one of the retreats which I taught here, going outside the door here and seeing a person just looking at, there was like a weed, just on the path, or just off the path, and they were just gazing at it in awe of this little weed, had a little flower on it, and just how beautiful it was. When you start to go slow, you can experience so much more. And that also brings me to, be careful, that also brings me to the meditation when you're eating. This is very similar. When you're having your food, how do you eat? I know that many people, they've got the bowl, and they're eating something, but as they're eating it, they're looking down at what they're going to have next. They're in the future. Some people, they've got something they're chewing, there's something which is waiting on the spoon or the chopsticks, and they're already about 2 morsels of food ahead of themselves in the bowl, what they're going to have next. Can you relate to that? You're not really being present, are you? So instead, just 1 spoon or chopstick, whatever you use, or fork, put it in your mouth. And don't even think of the future. Taste it, chew it, get the most nutrition out of it as you possibly can as you're chewing it, because the saliva is reacting with that food. And it's almost when there's no taste left, then you can swallow it. And experience the food just going down your digestive tract. And then, the next thing you want to put on your spoon. Be in the moment, don't rush. You have plenty of time to eat. You haven't got a boss. Well, I'm your boss, you might say. I'm telling you, don't eat fast. Enjoy your lunch. As I used to say when you used to have these long corporate lunches, be a legend in your own lunchtime. In other words, take your time and enjoy it. You can digest much better when you're not rushing. And that means that you're not just doing walking meditation, sitting meditation, doing eating meditation as well. And you did ask about standing meditation. I know I tried that a little bit, but I found it not very helpful. I know my predecessor, Ajahn Brahm, had some friends who did a lot of standing meditation, after lunch for 2 hours. And they were young monks. It was very hard. But because they were young and reasonably healthy, they could actually do that. Some of them got some great samadhi afterwards. But it was very unpleasant to do that. So I wouldn't recommend standing meditation. I think there's too many health problems involved in it. So we'd have sitting meditation, walking meditation, even lying down meditation. Some people do get sick, and sometimes they find it hard to sit or hard to walk. So does that mean they can't meditate? Of course not. So lying down meditation will be probably the last posture you ever meditate in when you get old and sick and are bedridden. So that's one of the reasons why it is useful to be able to develop the laying down meditation, to know how it's done and what to do. So when you're doing lying down meditation, the first thing which I learnt was never lie in the same position. If you're going to meditate, never lie down in the same position as you normally go to sleep in. I've got myself used to this. I go to sleep lying on, you're supposed to be lying on your right side, but I'd lie on my left side when I go to sleep. Turn over later on and go on the right side, but always start lying on my left side with my hand underneath my head. I never go to sleep lying on my back, because that is the position which I reserve for myself for meditation. So that means that when I lie on my back on a bed or on anywhere, it's like psychologically my body is telling my mind, he doesn't want us to go to sleep now, he wants us to meditate. And that was really, really, really useful until the time when you went on these long plane journeys, the overnighters, and you're supposed to lay on your back and try and fall asleep. I can't do it. It's like my mind is telling me, no, you're not supposed to go to sleep. You're on your back. You're supposed to be meditating. But I want to go to sleep. No, you can't. It's the wrong posture. But anyway, that's just a little idiosyncrasy. But if you want to, I don't know how you go to sleep, first go to sleep. Make sure you meditate, if you want to meditate laying down, in a posture which you don't normally go to sleep in. And then you make your body comfortable as best you possibly can. And then you just, scanning the body is great. You can really relax it to the max. And then you can just start watching your breathing. You're still breathing when you're lying down, and it becomes very peaceful. It's helpful because you don't get so many sores, an aching knee, an aching back, an aching this or an aching that. It's a very comfortable posture, for your body. But please don't lay down in the hall. That's why you have your rooms for. So you can lay down in there, and I don't care which way you're pointing your feet, because I can't see it. What I don't see, I don't worry about, and I'm asked the same for each one of you. So that means you can have a nice, peaceful meditation. And on this, I have to also include another personal experience. The time I really was sick, the sickest I've ever been. I was only about 24 at the time. Yeah, about that, 24, 25, with scrub typhus. Exactly the same symptoms as typhoid. There was no scrub typhus in northeast Thailand when I got it. The reason was because all the locals had immunity. They'd grown up in the area, and that immunity had been passed from mother to child. So when the Western monks came there, we didn't have any immunity, so we got these fevers and really sick. And people thought, well, they didn't know what it was. Until this very sharp doctor came and said, "Is this scrub typhus?" I said, "No, there's no scrub typhus there, but that's the symptoms." And so they sent out a delegation of medical researchers from Bangkok, and they found a little mite in the forest, which if they bite you, that would give you the scrub typhus. It was there. But at that time, I didn't know what the disease was. And I got lovely stories about having scrub typhus. That was the time. I had a fever for weeks. It was over Christmas time. Fever for weeks, felt really weak, and this was the monks' hospital, monks' ward in a third world hospital in Ubon Ratchathani, in the 70s, early 70s. It was very basic. One of those stories, you first got admitted, they put the drip in your arm, you're laying in the bed there, and at 6 p.m. you saw the nurse, there was a male nurse on the front of the ward. There was maybe about a dozen monks in the beds there. I was one of them. And the nurse disappeared. 6:30, the replacement nurse hadn't turned up. And I said, "The night nurse isn't here. What should we do?" I could speak Thai then. And the man in the next bed, or the monk in the next bed, said, "What are you talking about? There is no night nurse. What happens if somebody gets wrong? It's just unfortunate karma, that's all." That wasn't reassuring when you had a fever and you were in a strange place. But there was never a night nurse. You try and look after each other if you could. So it was very basic facilities. But then that's when Ajahn Chah came to visit me. I was such a young monk. And this great hero monk, Ajahn Chah, he came in the ward to visit me. Oh, it was just, straight away, you felt so honoured that, the great master had come in. And then I was just so eagerly awaiting for him to give me some nice metta. That's what I really wanted, but he didn't give me metta, he gave me Dhamma. Brahma Wangso, you're either going to get better or you're going to die. And then he left. That was really disappointing, I must admit. But how can you argue with that? If you're sick, is it one of the nuns is sick today? Please tell her from me. I think she's listening on the phone. Okay, you're either going to get better or you're going to die, but the sickness won't last. But then after he left, a day or two later, nothing had got better at all. So that's when, sometimes I don't know why I do these things. Sometimes I decided, let's meditate. And there's no way in the world you could have sat up to meditate. No energy there. You had fever for weeks. You felt so low energy. So just laying on the bed. Laying on the bed, deciding, to let go. I'm not quite sure exactly what I did, but I know what happened. So you're just laying on the bed. That's probably more like those Emperor's Three Questions meditation. Now's the only time. And what am I aware of right now? Ugh, yucky, fever, no energy. Ugh. That's what I was aware of. Care for it. And that type of attitude, you soon got into one of these incredible deep meditations. Couldn't feel my body, blissing out. And then, I enjoyed every minute of that. Imagine you're sick, fever, no energy, aching, and now you're blissing out. It's weird. But then when I came out afterwards, the first thing I noticed coming out of that meditation was my posture. Because I know that many people say you have to sit cross-legged with a straight back, and you've got to keep the energy connected by having your right palm on the left palm with the thumb slightly touching to keep everything connected. No way. My hands are all over the place. One over here, one over there. If you're sick in hospital with a fever, your body's all over the place. I never ever seen that posture in any book on meditation. Never. But it worked for me. I could let go of my body. And that's what it taught me. So if you are doing the lying down meditation, especially when it gets to that time of your life you're really sick and dying, fine. Don't worry too much of where your legs are, where your arms are, as long as you're comfortable. And one way of succeeding in that is asking your body. This is a way of developing mindfulness. If I want to have mindful of how you feel today, I'll just look at you and say, how are you today? And you'll give me an answer. That's what I do to my body. How are you, legs? And as soon as I ask that question, I become aware of that part of my body. So that's actually how I find the best posture. Legs, are you happy like this? Would you like to be moved? When you ask those questions, you get amazing answers. Sometimes the body said, yeah, I do want to be moved. How's that now? Much better, thank you. That's what happens. The same way if I ask you, how are you? Am I talking too long? Do you want a break? Should we put the aircon on? Do you want another cushion? When you ask that question, you just get an answer. You don't ignore the answer. You see if there is an aircon to put on, if there is another cushion, if you can move, then you do it. That means you become aware of your body and the best position for it. So that's what I do when I do laying down meditation. Are you happy like this, body? And it usually gives a few, move my legs a little bit this way. How's that? Oh yeah, that's much better. And that means that you're aware of your body, you're kind to it, and then you can close your eyes and just be aware of things like your breath, whatever, or whatever's in front of your mind right now. And you get into some nice peaceful meditations. I don't know about you, but when you're even sitting down for an hour-long talk, does your body feel a bit tight sometimes? Imagine when you're doing a meditation and it's laying down and it feels so comfortable. And then you can get peaceful. Or you're doing walking meditation, it feels so comfortable. It's like one big distraction is taken away from you about trying to look after the health and comfort of your body. So this is actually how we do this meditation. That awareness usually starts on your body. That's why sometimes the Buddha says that you've got to start off your meditation with kaya-gata sati, which means like with your body, mindfulness of your body. And one of the reasons for doing that is to be able to relax the body. And I keep calling it relaxing to the max. That is not a joke. one of my problems. It's my own fault. I tell so many jokes that sometimes people don't know when I'm being serious or when it's a joke. Relaxing to the max means when you start meditating, you find out how to relax to the max. The maximum amount of relaxation. And I usually find that if I'm doing my sitting meditation, I can just sit down, I cross my legs, just like I'm doing now, no pressure on anything. They call it actually the Burmese position for meditation. That's the one I prefer, rather than full lotus. My knees are just right down. I've been meditating like this for years, and they feel really comfortable. My back, it's weird, but if I just loosen my back, it doesn't feel comfortable. So I just arch the back. It's like stretching it. And once it's stretched, it feels good. And my hands just in my lap. And just my head just slightly down, not too much. And relax all the muscles around my eyes and my face. To me, that's very important for the main reason that I remember just going to Malaysia the first time to teach meditation. This was many years ago. And I couldn't believe it. The biggest problem people had when they were doing meditation retreats in Malaysia at that time was samadhi headache. Samadhi means, the peace of stillness. Samadhi headache? What are you talking about? I do samadhi to get past headaches, to make sure they don't come up again. But your samadhi creates headaches? I said, yeah. And I wanted to find out what the problem was. You know what the problem was? They were just focusing all the time on the tip of their nose. And if you want to prove what's happening to yourself, look in the mirror when you go back to your room, keep your eyes open, and focus your attention on the tip of the nose. Well, I will try and do that now, but many of you are too far away to really see. If I keep my eyes open and focus on the tip of my nose, you go cross-eyed. And people got their eyelids closed because they're supposed to be meditating, and they're going cross-eyed underneath their eyelids. And anyone will get a headache like that over here, the tension headache for being cross-eyed for half an hour or an hour. And that was the reason why. It's simple. I said, look, you don't need, if you're watching the breath at the tip of the nose, you don't need to watch it at the tip of the nose or anywhere, just watch the breath. This is not nose meditation, it's breath meditation. And that's really quite an important point. It's not just a joke. So these days, when someone hasn't meditated before in their life, I just tell them, close your eyes. Just count 3 breaths, 1 in, out, in, out, in, out. And after the 3rd breath, open your eyes. Everyone can do that, no problem at all. I've never found anybody who can't do that. Then you ask them, how did you know the breath was going in or going out? They say, I just know. You know whether your breath is going in or going out, whether you focus on the tip of the nose or your belly or wherever. You don't need to locate it in your body. Just know it's going in. No, it's finished going in. No, it's going out. It's finished going out. That's all you need to do. Keep it simple. And that is far more effective because it's something which I'll discuss later on about how the purpose of these meditations is to be able to let go of this body. The body is very irritating. You don't have to be old to realize how irritating the body is. Even young people, fit and healthy, they still get irritated bodies. And it's so beautiful when you're not aware of the body at all. You're aware of the breathing, aware of other things, but not of this body. You feel free and relaxed. So that's why part of the way of meditation is to let go of the external 5 senses So you're not seeing anything, you're not hearing anything, smelling, tasting, touching. All of that just gets suppressed, gets silent and disappears. So that becomes part of our way of meditating. And it's beautiful when that happens. You feel so free and untroubled. So this is how we actually meditate. I said I was going to do much more on the breathing meditation, but didn't really get into that. So I'll do that tomorrow on the Anapanasati. And I will be repeating much of what I said today, because how you do walking meditation, how you do eating meditation, how you do lying down meditation, it all is the same, basically, method, path, as you do with the breath meditation. It becomes calm, slow, natural. You don't force anything. It's almost you're a passenger, never a driver. You're sitting there and just watching all these wonderful things happen. And not being the agent which makes it happen. Not a control freak, but being passive. A passive, silent observer. And seeing what happens. Okay. Now for once, that was my goal, to finish at 5 to 9. I'm 2 minutes early. What about you? Is it 2 minutes early?
7 minutes, but I'll forgive you.
Oh, I've got to make sure that I look after you, because you're the retreat manager and you control my breakfast and my food.
No, that's Nicholas. He does it all by himself.
But where does he get the ingredients from?
Christina.
And who's in charge of Christina on the retreat?
Maya.
Okay. Anyhow, sure. So now we have the opportunity for the interviews. So I wish you a pleasant morning. Lots of walking, lots of sitting, and laying down if you still need to. It's still only the second day of the retreat, the second and a half day of the retreat, so you still will have some sloth and torpor just from coming in here, just getting settled in to the rhythm of the retreat. So please be kind to yourself. If you need a nap, please take one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good.